Trump has pushed hard back against any notion that the Manafort-Gates indictments have any link to him or the campaign, but are the chips stacked against him?
Plus, 2 men have been arrested for the terror attack in New York City. What will come of their case?
And Army Sergeant Bergdahl will not serve prison time for endangering his fellow soldiers. Criminal defense attorney A. Scott Bolden here to break all of this down and these trending stories tonight. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
All right, so let's start off the top. Bergdahl, the president was not happy with the fact that he's not going to serve any jail time. When you look at this case, when you look at the desertion, what was your takeaway from it?
Well, very tough case, very controversial case. It spanned 2 administrations, but in the end, I really think Donald Trump's comments influenced the judge's decision here, and not in a good way. The commander-in-chief ought not be politicizing what happens to Bergdahl, what happens at his sentencing, and really what happened with him walking away from his regiment, being captured for whatever reason. Bergdahl probably should not have been in the Army. As you know, he washed out of the Coast Guard, and as a result, he was a very troubled young man. In this case, the judge, having listened to the arguments for about 7 days or a number of months, decided to give him a dishonorable discharge, which means he loses all of his pension, and he does not go to jail, and that for 5 years that he suffered at the hands of the enemy in Afghanistan, that was torture and trouble enough for him. It's a lenient sentence, a fair sentence, but really one that puts this behind us. Now, there will be an appeal, but normally those procedural appeals are not up. This sentencing won't be upended.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the New York City terror attacks, the 2 men that have been arrested. How do you expect this case to progress from here?
Well, the big issue is, again, Donald Trump's really difficult comments that don't help any of this. The call for them to be put to death already without a fair trial, without due process. The call for them to be enemy combatants and to be sent to Guantanamo Bay. Really difficult to have a fair and impartial hearing and trial on this. But under the prior administration, the Attorney General called for each of these terrorists, when they were caught, to be tried in the federal district courts of our country. And Eric Holder was a big supporter of that. As you know, those who went to Cuba, to Guantanamo Bay, they've sat for 15 or 16 years without a trial. So look to see whether that becomes an issue for political debate. But in the judiciary, they'll probably be tried in New York.
We got the 1 minute left. Let's talk.
Sorry.
No. Don't ever apologize.
Give me a couple more minutes.
Let's talk about the Paul Manafort, that indictment, because that seems to be the big fish right now that Robert Mueller is going after, at least in this point. As far as the investigation goes, is this the tip of the iceberg, or do you think this is the biggest one that he's at least going to indict?
Well, this is the biggest one so far. Remember, as I talk about the pyramid prosecution scheme, I'm a former New York State prosecutor, and the reality is this is the beginning. He's got several counts. He's facing up to 20 years, and they're working on Manafort right now and his colleague who were indicted together, and that is simply that they want to flip them. They want them to turn and tell everything they know. They've got a hands-down case, at least according to the indictment. We'll have to see. The most important part of the indictment is the forfeiture at the last page of it, though, because they could lose everything, and then their families won't be provided for.
So do you think George Papadopoulos, the only guilty plea, do you think he's sort of the one that's going to turn against his former campaign coworkers?
It sounds like he's done that already. Don't know whether he's wearing a wire or not, but if you look at the conviction or the statement in support of his guilty plea and his deal,
sure.
He was heavily involved in reaching out to the Russians. He was aware that they had information on Hillary Clinton, and he was talking to higher-ups in the Trump campaign. That's irrefutable.
All right. A. Scott Bolden, thank you so much for your legal analysis. Appreciate it.
You too. Bye-bye now.
We'll see you soon.